I think the point about it is that Iran, those sorts of statements have been made in Iran. Many of them were made at the beginning of the revolution.
But they're being made by this president
yes,
now. We're dealing with the situation as it is now.
Under President Ahmadinejad, there's a bit of a renaissance with him of that kind of language. Nonetheless, in Iraq and in Afghanistan, when it's come to shove, the Iranians have discussed those problems pragmatically and have helped establish at least the beginnings of solutions.
You would agree in this region, and you've been a specialist in this region, that when somebody says they're going to hurt you, it's a good idea to take them seriously, isn't it?
I agree.
Because they generally end up doing that.
Of course, yes, and it's important to take the problem seriously. I'm not saying don't take the problem seriously. I'm saying don't exaggerate it, and don't. It could develop into a major threat. At the moment, I think it's a potential threat.
We also have a threat to respond to sanctions with causing harm and pain to America. That's a direct threat of force, isn't it?
It's what countries do when they're threatened with harm and pain themselves, which is what sanctions would do.
They're saying something else with that, though, aren't they? That is a threat of force.
It's no more a threat of force than the Americans saying nothing is off the table.
All right. Michael Axworthy, thank you very much indeed. Mustafa Alani, if I could ask you now to speak for the motion, please.
I mean, you listened to the previous speaker saying two things important, that there is a threat, he called it potential, and he admitted that he is not living in the region. I live in this region. So before I invite you to really decide to put decision whether you are in support of the motion or not, you have to look at the other Iran, which the previous speaker described. The real Iran, not the Iran we want in the region. The regional state that behaving as an imperialist state, a state which interferes in everything in the region and denying everything in the region, denying interference. Here we're talking, there is a triangular lethal combination in the present Iranian setup. In extreme leadership, producing a lot of provocative rhetoric, vague and ambitious nuclear program, and interventionist strategy. Besides the huge and really unpredictable environmental risk involved in such program, Iran's nuclear program potentially poses the greatest threat to the security and stability of the region. What the world has discovered in 2003 about the nature of the Iranian nuclear program has shocked every one of us here in the region. If you look at the report of the international agency, if you look at the investigation in Abdul Qadir Khan, their requirement, basically, it's a nuclear weapon. So here we're talking about Iran represents for us in the region. I don't care what the American or what the Israeli think. I am living in this region. Iran is in an occupation state as far as the three islands occupied and refused never to go to the International International Court of Justice. Interventionist state as far as the situation in Iraq is concerned. Our perception that Iran poses the greatest threat to the regional security is based on reality and actual facts. Our negative perception is a natural product and rational outcome produced by a long list of negative Iranian behaviors. Iran cannot adopt an aggressive and expansionist and intimidating policy and at the same time talk about building trust and friendly brotherly relations. Iran has to make a choice and change attitude and behaviors accordingly. Iran cannot have both. You cannot claim friendship and trustworthy relation when you seek superiority over your neighbors. Iran once more underestimating our ability and our determination to defend ourselves and our interests and defend our survival here in the region. Iran really understand our silence as an agreement, understand our politeness as weakness. And I think I can tell the Iranian that do not indulge in self-deception. So therefore, I want your support in this motion. Thank you.
Dr. Alani, thank you very much indeed. Your claims that the IAEA in Vienna has accused Iran of making a bomb simply aren't borne out by the facts. The latest report by the IAEA in this month, in March, says there is no evidence of any diversion to nuclear weapons. The agency has not seen indications of diversion of nuclear material to nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices.
Well, I remind you that the Iranian...
So it simply isn't correct.
No, it is correct, I tell you.
No, this is exactly what they've said, Dr. Alani.
Well,
this is a quote.
The Iranian program started in 1952. No one complained until 2003, when we discovered that the Iranians cheating. There is so many installations, they never been declared. And really, they've never been declared for a very simple reason. They are under obligation.
But there's no accusation by the IAEA that Iran is making a nuclear weapon. It's simply not there.
Hiding things, there is a justification for it.
They may be incomplete in the information.
Not at all.
Because the report goes on to say, regrettably, however, after 3 years of intensive verification, there remain uncertainties with regard to both the scope and the nature of Iran's nuclear program. Uncertainties. That doesn't make them the biggest threat in the region,
because there is no explanation for two major installations, nuclear installations. They are under obligation.
Not fact.
They are under obligation
and not conjecture.
They are under obligation under the NPT to declare every activities in the country, and they hide these activities for 15 years.
All right, Dr. Alani, thank you very much indeed. Professor Zabakalam, if I could ask you to speak against the motion, please. And I'm going to come to the audience straight afterwards for your questions, so please do have them ready.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. Iran has been accused of many things. Not only being the greatest threat in the region, but many other things. But when you look more carefully, you would see that behind all these accusations is the United States, first and foremost, and then the State of Israel. Iran's biggest fault, Iran's biggest guilt is to challenge the U.S. supremacy and the Zionist supremacy in the region. And so far, Iranians have paid a great deal for their independence and also for trying to remain independent. As far as the nuclear issue is concerned, Iran has obliged, Iran has cooperated fully and extensively with the IAEA. How many times, I ask the audience, how many times the IAEA inspectorate have been able to visit Pakistan? How many times they have visited Israel? And during the past 3 years, more than a dozen times, UN inspectors have visited every place in Iran. Even they have visited places that everyone knew, at least many Iranians knew, that they were not involved with the nuclear program. Yet Iranians said that let them come and see for themselves. And as I said, as far as Iran is concerned, Iran hasn't done anything wrong as far as the international rules and regulation and its obligation as far as the non-proliferation treaty is concerned can say. And all the reports so far that have been compiled by the IAEA does not prove, does not show, does not demonstrate that Iran is trying to have a nuclear weapon. And in any case, to have nuclear weapon for what? To use it against whom? To use it against UAE? To use it against Kuwait? To use it against Iraq? To use it against whom? Why should Iran develop nuclear weapon? Why should Iran have the desire to have the nuclear weapon? That's why I oppose the motion, and I ask the audience actually to vote against it.
Professor Zabakalam, thank you very much indeed. You know very well that Iran hasn't cooperated fully with the international community, has it?
In what sense, you mean?
Well, they've repeatedly said in their reports, the IAEA, time and time again, they have not had full cooperation.